All right. Well, let's get into it. I'm going to get straight to your bio. That's cool with you?
Sure.
All right. So we have Dr. Steph Jeffries. And Dr. Steph Jeffries is a forest ecologist and dendrologist and teaching professor at NC State University. If you want to know how to ID trees, Steph's YouTube channel, NC State Dendrology, is what you need to check out. It's really good stuff. It really is. And if you need to find Dr. Jeffries, you can use email or try Twitter. But your best bet is to find a rocky outcrop in the Appalachians and just holler, because she is one with the trees and the trails. And Steph, I'm really excited to have you on. You've been on my list for a long time. And yeah.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
A fellow tree person. And yeah, I have not ever had a dendrology class. And I hate that. Like, I would love to take one, but I can never find one that's like grad level, so.
Yeah. Got to take I sometimes teach classes at the Highlands Biological Station in Highlands, North Carolina. So I teach a forest ecosystems of the Southern Appalachians. So 2-week course, so it's a little more doable for professionals. Haven't had the chance, we didn't offer it last year, but it's it's a really fun class though.
That's cool. I love those classes. And let's talk about that here in a second. Because I do have several questions on some of the ways you teach and the way your classrooms are formatted and things like that. But if you don't mind, could you start with kind of who you are and what you do and how you kind of got there?
Sure. So my career path is long and winding. I always tell students, careers never look linear. You can read a bio and we make bios look linear, but in reality, most of us follow a winding path. So I have an undergraduate degree in marine science, and then my graduate degree is in forest ecology. And I feel like I'm living the dream right now. I wanted to teach dendrology ever since I took it, which was over 20 years ago. And so the opportunity came about for me to teach it 2 years ago, but I'm at NC State University, which is in Raleigh. And I love being a teaching professor because most faculty will tell you that teaching is the best part of their job. And that's pretty much what I get to focus on.
Yeah.
And so I love being outdoors and I love sharing the outdoors with students. So in the fall semester, I teach dendrology. I'm really excited and getting ready to teach a new summer camp course to me. It's our Forest Communities class. So that'll be taught as a field course, and I'm teaching it twice this summer to make up for the students who needed it from last summer. And then every other spring, I teach Introduction to Environmental Sciences, which is a large 250 to 300 student intro class at NC State. So that's kind of where I am. But, I worked for 5 years after I got my undergraduate degree. I was a clam farmer. Then I worked in forestry research, and that got me interested in forestry, which brought me back to graduate school. But it was funny, somebody asked me yesterday how I got interested in research, and it wasn't in school. My first job out of college, I was a research technician at a clam farm. And on my first day of work, my boss told me what we were trying to find out. And then he turned me loose, and I got to go see what I could learn about clams, which was super fun. And I just love that feeling of discovering something new.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Wow. So you went from clams to trees. That's really cool. That's definitely unconventional. Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of trees in the sea. Yeah.
Yeah. And I took some time, after I got my graduate degree, I was, my kids were really little. And so I took some time off and did quite a bit of contract teaching. So I've worked with a public audience, which I really enjoyed. I did a postdoc fellowship at Duke University where I taught academic writing before coming back to NC State, and taught professional development for a while, all the while trying to get back into teaching science, which was my favorite thing. And now I'm really excited to be teaching dendrology.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, I mean, it's definitely like my favorite topic. And despite not having it, I should say my advisor does teach forest ecology and plant ecology. And so I took that, and there was, like an element of tree ID, kind of the, here's some 15 common species of tree, and so it did provide that foundation, that foundational knowledge of, what to look for in identifying a tree. And from there, you can be turned loose, and as long as you have a passion for it, you can keep going. And that's kind of what I did. So
yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of gets me to some questions I had for you, because I completely share that passion for the outdoor education, the getting your hands on a tree, looking at the bark in detail, where's your hand lens, get that thing out, we got to look at these leaves and that kind of stuff. And without those classes, without those outdoor engaging field classes, I would not have stayed a student. I would have been lost, this isn't for me. And so those seem to be like the classes that you really excel at and really excite you, like talking about dendrology. So yeah, with that, I mean, what can you kind of speak to as far as what is a typical class for you in dendrology, or others as well?
Yeah, so some of the things you touch on are interesting, that outdoor experiential education, and that's what brings a lot of our students into our programs. And so teaching dendrology online last fall was really difficult. But of course, out of that, good things happened, like our NC State Dendrology YouTube channel, where we do a lot of tree ID videos. And, it's really interesting too, that you talk about how you've come into that knowledge, some of it on your own, just based on your interest and passion for trees. When dendrology is considered, it's one of our core classes in our curriculum, and it's considered to be very difficult because we teach students how to site identify usually 170 to 180 trees by the end of the semester. And so, students come into it with a certain level of fear. And so one of my jobs really is to just try and reassure them and kind of coach them through, like, yes, this is hard, and you can also do it. And so, I think one of the things I'm working on right now is a preparation course for students who have never had identification before. So the students who have some level of, they've done some learning of identification before, tend to do better. They come in and they kind of know strategies. Some of my students, when they start, if they've never had ID before, they take the first week's species. We learn about 16 to 17 species a week. And so they'll just see it as a flat out memorization. And that, I call that the Rolodex method. The Rolodex method doesn't take you very far.
No.
And I was new to tree identification when I took it as a graduate student, marine science background. I knew what Spartina alterniflora was, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And so, students go through is it this? No. Is it this? No. And what I'm trying to do in the prep course is teach strategies or methods for learning the identification, some sorting and filtering, so that they can start doing some recognition of, okay, this is it shares certain characteristics, or this is a hickory. Hickories always have compound leaves.
Yeah.
And that way they can at least narrow their choices to some degree.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do in this prep course. And also just to teach students that you kind of need to have a growth mindset. Like, yes, this is going to be hard at first, but it's funny, by the middle of the semester, a lot of students, like, it gets a little bit easier. And I don't know how to explain that really, except that you're not as intimidated by those long scientific names, and you're more used to knowing what to look for when you're learning a new plant.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. For one, that is awesome if, putting together the intro, type class for identification, that's a skill. It's a skill all itself, just to think with that identification mindset, how do I even go to tackle this? It's that analogy to me of a watermelon and trying to, eat that whole thing and not knowing that you could just slice it and how to slice it. And so it's teaching that, having that introduction like that would be very valuable. It's kind of like for me, learning scientific names was just like, for what I'm all right with like taking just facts and just, memorizing things, but you can't really do that well with scientific names for too long. But whenever I had a terminology class, I took like a medical terminology, biomedical terminology class. And oh my gosh, then I could really chunk these names and I could understand what they mean. And then it made sense. So yeah, I feel like that would be an awesome primer it sets you up for all the biological sciences. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And, I think the best part of teaching dendrology is that, I have some students, especially the ones who are kind of fearful at the beginning, but once they get into it, I have some who just like, they just love it. And,
yeah.
I just saw a former student of mine, and he said he didn't even do very well in dendrology, but it spurred this lifelong love of learning trees and identification. It was cool to see.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I I don't know I'm sure you have come across this, but so every time I take like an identification type class, like when it was first I took ornithology because I thought I was going to be like a bird person, and I still do. You wouldn't take?
I still want to take that.
Yeah, well, like that's really interesting. Like some people are so hands off on like I have no interest in birds, and some people are just like all in. There's very few that are like, yeah, this is interesting and I love taking this class. It's like kind of you either love the birds or
I want to learn it all.
Yeah,
I was out with
cool.
Heritage. I was out with biologists from the Natural Heritage Program yesterday, and they were more experienced birders than I was. So I was trying to learn from them, and I've just discovered the Merlin app.
Oh yeah,
I just love it. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, I'll say one thing about birders that is really awesome is their development of their apps. It's really cool stuff. Yeah, for sure. And I'm a mediocre birder, but but taking the ornithology, like well, another thing too about me, and just a really short mental health segue here is I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and where you're constantly get intrusive thoughts all the time, and that's not very good for ID because you tend to distract yourself with constantly IDing everything, and so
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you don't, unless you have it. And so, like with birds, I was constantly, what's this? I have to ID every single one of them that I ever see, and then I kind of tapered off that, but really I tapered off with it, off of it by having my plant tax class, and then I was looking down at the ground, and I had really sage advice from Dr. Gloria Cadell. She's an amazing botanist at the University of Central Oklahoma. And she told me a story about a man who was looking down too much, and his wife got tired of that and left. She said it in a really great way. But I thought, you know what? Like, this is applicable. And so after that, when I started doing lots more tree ID, I became more conscientious about doing that on my own time and not on family time.
That's funny,
so
because I was just on vacation. We went down to South Florida to the Everglades, and I have a 17 and 20-year-old sons, and they already know, and my husband, and so they already know that I like trail running. So I either run on the trails or I go like at a glacial pace, trying to look at
yeah. Two speeds.
No in between. Yeah. And so somebody said to me yesterday, like, oh yeah, did you key stuff out? I was like, I'm already really slow. Keying things out will just send my family over the edge. So I try to keep that in mind also.
No, that's good. It sounds like you know the balance, and when you should and shouldn't. Yeah, get that hand lens out. Yeah.
Definitely.
No, that's cool. So yeah, tell me about your trip. Like where I mean, like I saw like some of your photos on Twitter, and that looks cool. But
Yeah, it was amazing. We decided to go down to South Florida. It was my younger son's spring break from high school. So
yeah.
And I'd never spent a lot of time in the Everglades. And so we went into the Everglades and also Big Cypress Preserve. And I think it was just incredible. And also a good reminder to me as a dendrology professor, developing this prep course, I knew so few of the trees there. Yeah. And then the student who I met up with while I was down there, the former student, he said, yeah, everything has evergreen, simple, entire leaves. So everything is just this random leaf. So it's really like, I hardly knew, other than live oaks, I hardly knew any of the trees, but it was beautiful. Yeah. And the national park is laid out with some really cool little stops along the road to take you into the different plant community types. So that to me was amazing to see. So I got to see a bunch of different community types. And then one of the stops is, I think it's called the Paheoki Trail. And it takes you on this boardwalk and you get to see it looks into the Shark River Slough, and it is miles of wilderness. It's the largest wilderness east of the Mississippi. And it was just incredible to look and just see that wild place with no evidence of humans, no evidence of humans.
Right.
That was it was beautiful.
Oh, really that's cool. That. Yeah. You don't. Yeah, you're right. I mean, like you don't get to. You just don't come across that. That's not something
There's not that many places.
No, I've got trees, but it's not wilderness. That's for sure.
Yeah, it really felt like true wilderness. So that was really fun. I mean, I loved them. We had a great hike at Big Cypress too.
That's cool.
Had a funny picture of my kids wondering like, what is a normal vacation like? But actually, they know what vacation is. I mean,
this is normal. That's really cool.
But we got to hike into a cypress dome, so that was really awesome. So that was a new community for me, and just to see live oak trees, which in North Carolina I might have Spanish moss draped on them on the coast. Yeah. Well, instead it's got all these bromeliad ear plants of all kinds of flowers. So that was super cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think about, for me being landlocked in the center of the country, I kind of tend to have really big groups, like, oh, that's the East Coast, and that's not true at all. Like, very, very different, when you get up in the Carolinas versus South Florida for sure. So
yeah, it was just so cool to see all those different communities and get a better understanding of what makes it a cypress dome, or why do we have cypress dome here versus pine rockland. There are all these community types I'd never seen before, and it was neat to get an insight on why they were there and what they're all about.
That's cool. I wonder, did they have any signage, or do you know any facts about like the ages or kind of suggested age of the cypress there?
It was interesting because one of the community types I saw was a dwarf cypress forest, and
cool.
The trees are tiny. They're like, I mean, they're not tiny like bonsai tiny, but they're dwarf, mainly because the conditions for their growth is really crummy. Like a lot of the Everglades, I guess, are over top of this kind of coral calcified rock, which I guess is old coral. And that makes for really tough growing conditions. There's not a lot of soil depth and not great nutrients in those soils. So that was pretty interesting. I also, there's a trail that goes into a mahogany hammock, an old growth mahogany hammock. So there's these old growth, like I got to see the state record mahogany tree.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
And that was super cool. I mean, it wasn't giant, but because it's on this hummock in the middle of, marsh prairie. Yeah. It wasn't logged. So it was cool.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, well, and that makes sense too. I mean, like all the oldest trees are, well, for the most part, the oldest trees are always kind of stunted, gnarly, kind of
Yeah.
creatures.
Yeah, this Sunday I'm supposed to I have plans to go down to the Black River. Have you heard about the giant old cypress trees
That Dave Staley chord, and
in Three Sister Swamp? So I'm really excited. I hope the weather holds and the water levels are okay. So I'm pretty
that's so
excited about
cool.
that.
Man, that's
Yeah.
cool.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping I
I would
can
love
learn how
to.
to go there without getting lost, and then I can take students there.
Yeah, no, for sure. You definitely want to be able to come back and tell the tale. That's for sure.
At least with most of the
That's so
students.
cool. Yeah, I mean, whenever I read about the cypress there, and how old they were, that just blew my mind. Because for cypress, seeing bald cypress, kind of in my neck of the woods, they're generally not thought to be long lived. And these are things that people like, they happen to grow up in their pond or their, at their lake or something, and
Yeah.
to learn that, these things can be thousands of years old. That just blew my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What a treat. That's going to be awesome for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions for you. I just I get overwhelmed, like where to take this. Yeah. So what's some of the I know you do some research. You're mostly teaching professor, but what is some of the focus of that research, and how is that conducted?
So I'm doing a little bit of, I'm always interested in discovering new things, and that's what I love about science. And so I'm starting to get into doing a little bit of undergraduate research. I was on a panel yesterday, so I hope to have some students working with me on that. I've got a couple teeny projects. One is this bumpy beach bark project.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. See,
Have
that
you
was one
seen
of my
bumpy
lines
beaches?
of questioning. Yeah. No, I haven't seen them. I've only seen them by your postings.
Just
So
the
yeah,
photos.
please go ahead. I'm interrupting.
I've been seeing these bumpy beach bark, right? So beech is normally this, beautiful, smooth gray bark, the classic tree where people carve their initials.
Yeah,
because
right.
the bark's really thin. Like we always say, that's one of the field characters. But over the last few years, I've seen a few trees with these like distinct big clusters of bumps on them. And so I sent photos to a couple of colleagues I know and said, do you know what this is? And everybody kind of came back like, no, I don't know what that is. Or I've seen it, I don't think it's a big deal. And then this spring I posted a photo on Twitter, and one of my colleagues in Forest Health saw it and said, hey, well, I want to check this out. Let's go look. And what I noticed this spring that really intrigued me was North Carolina has this wonderful trail, the Mountains to Sea Trail, that runs across the state. And it happens to go through Wake County, which is where I live, not very far from my house. So I'm a section steward for the Mountains to Sea Trail and just do maintenance and monitoring. And so I was out on a section of the Mountains to Sea Trail running, and I saw a bumpy beech, and then I saw more, and the whole stand in that section were covered with bumps. And to me, it looked like, well, actually, I thought it looked like beech acne, but the trees are mature. I know it's not that. But that's what it looked. It looked like a disease to me. And so I took my colleagues back there. They were both forest entomologists, Dr. Robert Jatan and Dr. Kelly Oaten, who works in extension. And so, we went in the winter and said, okay, this doesn't look like an insect, but we don't know what it is. And then once we started posting pictures, all these people chimed in and said, oh, I've seen that. I'm seeing that where I am.
Yeah.
So it was funny because I set it up. I was like, you know what, this is a good thing for iNaturalists because I don't have time to go drive around looking for bumpy beech, but people are noticing it, and it's easy to identify beech. So it lends itself well for citizen science.
Yeah.
So I set up a project on iNaturalist, and I'm getting quite a few observations from all over the East. Definitely not beech bark disease. That makes more like lesions than bumps.
Yeah.
But, for now, if somebody said, oh, will you do a citizen science program on it? And I said, well, sure, as long as it's okay that we don't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
But to me, this is the fun part of science, right? It's all about discovery, right?
Your observational discovery. Yeah, I love that.
So, I think there's a lot of things that iNaturalist could help us with, like, is it widespread?
Mm-hmm.
What states is it in? Does it, does it cluster in stands, or is it random individuals?
Yeah.
Are there whole places where it isn't?
Yeah.
So, for all we know, it's just a genetic anomaly, and like there's just some beaches are bumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Hopefully it's not a terrible disease.
Yeah, right.
So we're kind of
some
waiting
undiscovered
to see back to that.
invasive or something. Let's hope not.
Yeah, I hope not, because my other citizen science project is about a horrible invasive plant, big buttercup, which is just.
Oh yeah, okay.
The citizen science is so far has shown us on iNaturalist that it's far worse than we initially thought. But
wow,
a little discouraging. But the bumpy beaches, I think we're going to go back out to that stand this spring and see if the leaf out is normal, or if bumpy beaches tend to look like they're not doing as well. Hard to say. So I'm not sure where that's going to take us, but.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love that. That reminds me a lot. We talking about birding. Like Ebird is, developed by University of is it Cornell? I think Cornell University.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic app, and it's great for it's been used for like published studies on bird migrations and occurrence and all that. And iNaturalist is when I dabbled in iNaturalist a long time ago, it was not what it is today. And today iNaturalist is a really amazing, cool thing that I really need to do more myself. But yeah, what a fantastic opportunity to do some discovery and maybe identify, hopefully, like it's a genetic thing. But even if that's what it is, that's a cool discovery right there.
Yeah,
this is a distinct gene or whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think with science, a lot of times you have to take a little leap of faith of like, well, we don't know what the answer is. Like I have another project where I've got it's a service learning project with my environmental science class. I really wanted students, the class has 300 students, so you can't easily take them on field trips.
Yeah,
but,
right.
We have a few, like we have a restored stream on campus that I take students to. It's sort of self-guided, but I hang out on the trail and talk to students. It helps me get to know them. But we also have a service learning project where I have 120 trees tagged on campus, and students are looking at measuring their diameters. So I send all my students out on campus one day.
Yeah.
They have this mass remeasurement of trees.
Oh, how great.
They use it it's really fun. And so they use it to learn more about precision and accuracy. And then we also have them measure percent impervious surface to see if we can detect an impact of impervious surface on tree growth. So I have a student who's doing some work on that. And, it's funny, I'm not sure what the numbers are going to show us. I'm not sure if I have a big enough sample set to really see significant impact of impervious surface on tree growth. And it could be on thresholds, like, beyond 50% pavement, forget it, tree's not going to grow, or maybe certain species do better than others. Our ground services folks have partnered with us and they're interested to see our results. But on the student end of things, right? So I also do research on how students learn and teaching effectiveness. It's really remarkable what they get out of doing that project, just going out of the classroom, especially, and these are students in all majors. So it's a lot of fun, and it gets them out of the classroom and shows them, sort of demystifies science a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. You're speaking my language, because I love that. And I haven't TA'd now for a couple of semesters, but I did, for like 3 years straight, and I love that. Like that experience, that getting off that ground level foundational understanding of biology, and it's like you just seeing it click with people. It's one of the most rewarding feelings that I've ever had, especially people that like there were a couple of people that I was talking with, and I would kind of tease them like, oh, be careful, like I think you're really starting to like plants, and they're like, oh, no way. And believe it or not, but like a couple years later, I found out that one of them had graduated, and she was going to go off and get her master's in studying plants. some other university.
That's amazing.
And I was just like, oh,
Those
that's
are the
so
best
cool.
emails.
Yeah,
Those
I
are the
mean,
best emails to get.
yeah, it was so cool. And yeah, so yeah, it's really rewarding work to be at that, you know, if it's your thing. I get some people are like, nah, I don't even like teach, I just do it so I can research. You know, I get that. That's fine. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like learning how students learn, investing in that research, and that is amazing stuff. I miss the future.
Well, there's a fun little thing I do with to teach. It's now they are talking about it being plant awareness disparity, where you know most of us don't see plants, and so I'll do an exercise at the beginning of my class, and then I've done this at talks. I've done it with people of all ages, where I'll show a slide with just 8 photos, 8 plants, or four plants and 4 animals. And I don't say much about it. And the next slide, I'll ask them to say tell me what they saw. And it doesn't matter what the audience is. Well, okay, the Native Plant Society, they
oh yeah, for sure.
But no matter the other audiences, they all remember the animals and no one saw the plants. They just didn't register. So that's one of my goals, is to teach this awakening of, wow, plants are amazing.
Yeah.
And trees especially.
Oh, especially trees, yeah. But all plants. We love plants.
All plants.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, you know, like, you know, I have like a weird relation. Well, I suppose everybody does. But I, you know, like, you know, for instance, Bradford pear or Callery pear, right? Like we all love to hate it. Can't stand it, you know, all that stuff. But then I just imagine, like, you know, if I were in, you know, China or somewhere in Asia, and I were to come across, like, you know, these Bradford pears from a distance, I mean, like, wouldn't that just be like the most spectacular scene, you know? And bear with me for a second, because, you know, like, we are just
you can't hide the smell. The smell never gets good.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I said at a distance. You know, you got the wind's got to be going the right way. Yeah, but you know, it's just like we have done a lot of disservice to plant communities by the invasives and the, you know, trafficking and all of that stuff of all these species. And you know, because I think
some of those introduction points are crazy. Like, right, kudzu was brought in as an erosion control. Yes. Microstacing was used as a packing material. Seems like a good idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like funny story. I my son, one of my sons, we were outside, and he picked up some Lamium implexicale, and he said, "Dad, this isn't honeysuckle, right?" I was like, no, it's definitely not honeysuckle. And he's like, "I didn't think so." And I told my cousin that. And I was like, "Why'd you have to tell your cousin that?" And he said he was telling us that it was honeysuckle, and he was just like sucking on it and eating the flowers. I was like, "Oh, well, you know, let's tell him not to do that, you know, next time you see him." You know, because I didn't know anything about, you know, is Lamium toxic? I don't know. It's in the mint family. Yeah. So I just said, you know, hey, you know, most plants will do more harm than help you, you know, so you got to be careful, and all that kind of, you know, general lecture. And yeah, it really, you know, Lamium is a great, you know, we use Lamium a lot of times for, like, on the, you know, I know, like, dam construction or like new roads and stuff, you know, people plant Lamium because it grows so readily and does a great job of soil erosion protection, all that. And yeah, you know, like, some things you just can't get rid of now, and it's sad. Like,
yeah,
you know, yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But fortunately, there's a lot you can do, especially with concerted efforts and all that stuff. But
yeah, I think one of the biggest problems is by the time we figure out that something is invasive, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, it's already reached that critical tipping point. Yeah, it's a sad thing. But you know, the nice thing is, I know, like, we have kudzu in some of our eastern counties in Oklahoma. We're a little too west for it to take hold, I think. Well, presumably, I don't know.
I haven't been to Oklahoma.
Well, you should come, we'll have a real fireside chat sometime.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And but I just think like, well, now we know what to do with that. Here we know to stamp that out quickly. The question is, are we going to do it? That's a question. But I mean, yeah, unfortunately, some of those are just really tough to beat. Is what it is, I guess.
Absolutely. The one that I'm focusing on right now is Big Buttercup, lesser silidine. And
yeah, tell me about that. I'm not very familiar with that.
It's Ficaria verna, and it's a garden plant, and you can tell that it is because where it's invading is in our greenway system. So Raleigh has this incredible greenway system, hundreds of miles. It started setting it up in the 70s, and so it's really wonderful. But greenways do provide, I'm very much passionate about conservation, and the greenways do provide a really, really ready pathway for the spread of invasive species because it's disturbed.
Yeah, right.
And so it's coming out, this plant, and it's a beautiful little plant, makes these nice clumps, and it's got these yellow flowers. It looks a little bit like marsh marigold.
Yeah.
And so, but it's migrating out of people's yards, and it has these little bulblets that it's like if you weed whack it into it's like a hydra. It makes like all these more
plants, right
just running down these stream corridors like crazy. So the worst problem, it's not in a lot of our natural areas. So for example, I haven't seen it up on the Mountains to Sea Trail yet, thankfully, but it is running down the watersheds via the greenways, which often follow power line or sewer line, or not power line, but sewer line easements. And so I think the whole, like when I looked on iNaturalist, I think there were no observations, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't there. It just means nobody looked it up. But there were no observations in 2018, and then like a handful in 2019, and now like there's 500 observations in my county.
Wow.
So it's pretty bad. We're sort of hoping that it hasn't gotten to the Neuse River corridor. So we're trying to treat it along the feeder streams, hoping to keep it out of the Neuse this season. So
so
it seems like since it's fairly recent that we may be able to get a handle on it. So that's why we're really working hard on it right now.
That's good. That's good. So good luck. I mean, that's awesome that you're doing something about,
we have a really good, one of the things that works really well here is we have an organization called Wake Nature Preserves Partnership. And so it's any organization or entity that manages public land in the county. And so that includes our local land conservancy, the county, various city and municipalities. And so our City of Raleigh invasive species coordinator is a total rock star, and she has got crews out treating this plant all over the place. So, and that network has been a really important conduit for information to get park managers like, keep your eyes open for this plant.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's been, that's rewarding. We do a lot of other, help each other out with, we're going to do a bio blitz in May. We do one bio blitz a year for one of the partners. If they have a new property that's coming online, we can look for specific natural resources or areas that need protection. So that's
very cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. Bio blitzes are tons of fun too. That's really cool.
They are.
All right, awesome.
All the ologists.
What's that? Oh yeah, the gathering of the ologists. It's like herding cats a lot of times, but when you say bio blitz, we can come together, can't we?
Oh yeah, and everybody's got their nerdy equipment of the trade.
Yeah, right.
So their herpetologists have the sticks with the little hooks on. The insect people have their butterfly nets.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, for sure. I love those gatherings like that where you get to see kind of the tech of the trade. That's so cool.
Really fun.
Okay, Steph, how about some questions?
Okay.
All right. Could you tell me, as a dendrologist, your favorite tree?
So I thought the icebreaker questions were supposed to be the easy questions.
Oh. Well, we can do others. I just traditionally
favorite
go with
tree.
this one.
So if my students had had a point for every time I said, this is one of my favorite trees.
Okay.
They would all have an A.
Yeah.
Seriously. So, but
All right.
I'm going to say a tree that I really love that's from the Southern Appalachian.
Okay. All right.
Where I
Here we
like
go.
spending a lot of time. So, one of the endemic trees of the Southern Appalachians is Table Mountain Pine. It's Pinus pungens, and it often grows. We were talking about old growth earlier. So it often grows on these dry pine ridges in the Southern Appalachians, not at the highest elevations. It's probably limited to maybe 4,000 feet. But it is a really tough tree and very gnarly. So it grows in this gnarly form, loves fire, needs fire to survive. It's a fire adapted species, that it's got serotinous cones that melt in the heat. So because prescribed fire is hard to pull off in the Southern Appalachians, just in the mountains in general, there's risk. It's a community type that's not as prevalent as it used to be, but I love the trees because they always grow in high places with a nice view, and they kind of hang on even in bad and difficult circumstances.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I have a friend that he had for a long time posted tons of photos of Table Mountain Pine. I just loved it. It's such a unique tree, for sure.
Yeah, and it's got because it has those serotinous cones, you'll see branches that'll have 10 years worth of cones retained along the branches that they didn't get the fire they needed to open, but they're really neat to see. And they grow in some of the most beautiful places in the Southern Apps. So Linville Gorge, Panthertown Valley.
Yeah, well, that definitely explains some of the photos I've seen of it. I mean, because that was the knowledge that I had of it, so that's really cool. Yeah, I'm glad. That's definitely one of my favorite trees too. Sorry.
Pinus pungens.
Pinus pungens. Okay. And what does it smell like?
Ooh, what does it smell like?
Have a unique smell?
No, not especially. It's not like Ponderosa with that just wonderful vanilla scent. It's more just the resiny pine smell, I think.
Just a piney smelling tree.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So what is your favorite fireside food and beverage?
Ooh. So one of the things I like doing for a hobby is trail running. And so sometimes there's a couple of races that we do it each year, my running group, and we'll sometimes camp out the night before a run. And so that's really great. My husband and I have perfected the quick and easy campfire meal of couscous and chicken. And whatever vegetables we happen to have. So it's really great because if you use already cooked chicken or canned chicken, you can have dinner in less than 10 minutes, which is really nice after you spend the day out.
Exactly.
And I would pair that with a nice IPA or maybe a nice brown ale if it's a little on the colder side. Okay.
All right. Hey, great. I like those answers. IPA has been the go-to for most of these chats. That's what I've been hearing most.
I know it is kind of popular right now. I will say I like the we have a longleaf IPA actually.
Cool.
Not to mix it up, but another one of my favorite trees, of course.
Yeah.
But it's got that, tree. It does have a sort of resinous-y. I like the IPAs that have that piney kind of resinous taste to them.
Yeah. One of my friends and I had we were on a kind of a field week in the Palencia Mountains in far southwest New Mexico. And we came through Hatch, which is the chili capital, green chilies. And anyways, they had pinyon pine is a big thing down there. And they have all these pinyon colas and pinyon flavored coffees and pinyon everything. And so we try to I hope I don't alienate anybody, but we try to pinyon cola, and that is the last pinyon cola that I've ever had.
Wasn't your thing.
It wasn't for me.
So was it much different?
it was like drinking tree cola. I mean, you're like, yeah, that's what I would imagine like drinking the fluid of a tree would taste like.
One of the videos I use, and so in Dendro we do learn pinyon pine because it's an important tree species.
Oh, smells
Most of
so
what we learned is
good.
in the southeast, but we have I've found a great video about the Navajo gathering and use of pine nuts from the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and it's or south rim of the Grand Canyon, and it's really cool to see. I kind of, when I've traveled out there, I wondered, how are these gathered, because the cones are so resinous.
Yeah.
And so I wondered about that.
Yeah. No, I have had pinyon nuts, and they are really delicious.
Oh yeah.
And and they have so you've got Pinus edulis in like Colorado or the Rockies and stuff. They have Pinus symbroides. That's the Mexican pinyon pine in far southwest. And yeah, I don't know how different they are, anything. I know they're both edible and delicious, but yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Pinus edulis, but not the other.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's cool. Let's see. So I'll ask you some of the easier questions now.
Ask a dendrologist their favorite tree. Come on.
I know it's always a setup question for sure. Okay, so do you have a favorite childhood cartoon?
Ooh, so I grew up without a television.
Okay. Do you have a favorite cartoon?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show.
Oh yeah, that was one of my favorites.
I wasn't that sheltered, but
okay, all right. So you saw a TV when you were a child at some point.
I did know of its existence, yes.
Okay, all right, cool. All right. Okay. Let's see. If your life was turned into a movie,
oh no,
who would you want to play you? So here's the thing. I have asked some people this, and I've spared some people this question because I couldn't answer this one myself. And then a guest told me, "Oh, you need to ask that one. That one's so good. It's my favorite question." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll start asking." And now, like, the past two people were like, "Oh, why'd you ask me that one?"
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't ask me that one because
okay.
I am not a movie or TV or pop culture person.
That's really funny. The last person I interviewed was the same way. So yeah.
And if naming actors is completely not something I can do.
All right. We'll skip that one. Okay. All right, we'll skip that one. So okay, this is I think one that you'll like. Okay. Doesn't have to be your favorite, but what are like some books you're currently reading or have recently finished? Yeah, what are some of those?
So I love reading. And actually I had this realization. I've only recently started rereading again. When I was in graduate school, I had to read so much for my work. And then even as a postdoc, I just sort of let reading slip by the wayside. And so I've really worked hard to bring it back in.
Mm-hmm.
So couple of recent reads. So if you're into trees, you have to read The Overstory by Richard Powers. There's all this tree. This story didn't speak to me so much as there's so much about trees woven into the novel that is correct and really interesting. So it's really a great read. And in fact, one of the characters tries to take this online dendrology class at the end.
Oh, no way.
It's hilarious reading that. So that was really good. I like reading poetry. I love Mary Oliver. She's a really wonderful poet who passed away just a couple of years ago. And then the book I just finished reading that I'm still thinking about is Robin Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass. And that just inspired me so much and made me, I'm still thinking and considering how I can bring some of her teaching and indigenous knowledge into my classes. And just this, one of the concepts she talks about a lot is the concept of reciprocity for the land and being part of nature. And I think that's really important, especially in the classes and the students who I get to teach and spend time with. But this is something we need we need to know, we need integrated with the work that we do. So it was a really wonderful read, and she's, she brings so much indigenous knowledge, and she's also a plant ecologist. So it really blew my mind. It was a great book, and she writes beautifully. So
that's great. I've seen her work going around. She recently did a talk that I saw, people resharing and or retweeting. How am I on Twitter? I don't even know how to say the right terminology for Twitter. But anyways, they was shared, and I haven't posted this one by the chat that I just did with Kristen DeGraw, dendrochronologist. She said the same thing. She just loved that book, and so that's cool. So now I have to read it. Yeah.
And she did a talk for University of British Columbia that I was able to, I think someone.
Oh, did you see it? Did you see the talk?
So I did.
Oh, that's cool.
Open to the public. So this is the silver lining of COVID, is a lot of things that weren't available before are now like pretty widely available. Cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's right. Everything's more accessible, even though nothing's accessible. So
it's hard to find time to watch a bazillion webinars, but it's cool to know that they're out there.
Yeah, well, and there are definitely some that are worth, blocking out the time to do. And it certainly seems like hers is one. And so you attended or you watched it?
Yeah, I did. And I was right in the middle. I wanted to finish her book before I attended, but I didn't quite have time. But yeah. Cool. So much of her, that traditional ecological knowledge was just fascinating to me. And I, really challenged my thinking and how we can bring some of that teaching into. And NC State is a land-grant university, and so I think it's especially important.
Yeah, for sure. It's really nice too to see native voices being amplified and having a chance. Talking about centuries of lost voices, literally, and so it's so great that we're having. I hate to say a resurgence. But like that's what it is, because that piece that is so critical. Of their intimate knowledge of the land and stuff, and ecology, and it's indispensable. And I'm so glad that it's coming back.
Yeah, and the approach is so fundamentally different than the European approach to colonization. I talk about it a little bit in my in Dendrology. We talk about nomenclature and how the nomenclature system, the Latin binomial nomenclature, is a very biased, right? Here comes some European who tells us how we're going to name plants and also specifies who gets to be an authority. And it really erases knowledge of plants that was held for centuries by indigenous people. I spent one evening just randomly looking. I wanted to find out what the indigenous name for Venus flytraps was. Venus flytraps are native only to a 70-mile range around Wilmington, North Carolina. So I love living in a place where I know where to go find Venus flytraps.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I could not find there must have been a name for this plant, and it's a race.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm so glad I heard that recommendation 2 times in a row. So it's now moved.
Watch that fireside chat yet, so I didn't.
Yeah. No, that one hasn't been posted, so I just had it. Okay, let's see. Oh, do you have a favorite scientist, an individual, or maybe like one or two?
Ooh, I have lots of friends who are scientists.
Right. Well, we're not alienating anybody. We're just what's a one or two or that you think of that were influential on you or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I certainly benefited from having a number of scientists as mentors and friends. My PhD advisor was Dr. Tom Wentworth, my co-chair, who's just recently finally retired. He's an amazing plant ecologist and taught me so much about plant communities and reading the forested landscape. There's a quote by E.O. Wilson that I've always loved, that a scientist is a storyteller looking for a story to tell. And that really goes with my, when I was a kid, I wanted to be, first I wanted to be an artist, but I did not inherit a lot of visual art skills or inclination, I guess, which actually probably just needs a growth mindset, and I could probably be better. But anyway, but the next thing I wanted to be was a writer for National Geographic. And I really wanted to go and learn about places and tell those stories. And so that quote's really stayed with me. And Tom is just a great person all around. He's really fun to travel with in the field. He and I co-taught our field course at the Highlands Biological Station for a number of years, which was just, I took the course from him, not realizing at the time that I would one day be the instructor for that class.
Yeah.
And so, talk about taking good field notes is really important. You never know when you might be teaching out of your own notebook.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, and then he and I co-authored a book called Exploring Southern Appalachian Forests that was based on that class that we taught, because we were once out by Ellicott Rock Wilderness. This is the place where North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia come together. Okay. And there's a really cool hike that we do in there. This is a forest that's been logged 3 or 4 times, and the rhododendron is about, 15 or 20 feet tall, and just along the Chattooga, it's beautiful. Yeah. And we got caught in one of those classic thunderstorms that comes up the Blue Ridge Escarpment every afternoon in summer. And we were, hiking out as fast as we could, and like lightning is striking all over the place. And Tom said, "Steph, we need to write a book." And so a few years later, we had a book.
That's so cool. Yeah. So it was born in that moment, or the seed was planted.
The idea.
Yeah, that's
the
awesome.
seeds were way ahead of us, but we had the keys to the van. So.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I want to check your book out. So if people want to check out your book, what's the best avenue to do that? Where is it available?
So there is a link to the title on Twitter. I don't think there's a link. I can't remember if there's a link to UNC Press or if it's just the title.
I think it is a link to your book, if I remember right. It may not be. I think you have like the hashtag for the school, or for maybe the Dendro.
I may have changed the hashtag for the Dendro stuff, which is a little more recent. But the book is called Exploring Southern Appalachian Forests. Okay. You can buy it on Amazon or really anywhere. And it was really fun to write. It was based on the forest ecosystems class that I used to teach with Tom Wentworth at the Highlands Biological Station. The last couple of years, I've taught it with Drs. Alan Weekly and Julie Tuttle. And so it's a 2-week road trip where we take students to see as many different forest ecosystems as we can in the Southern Appalachians. And so the book is a little bit further, covers a little bit of a broader geographic area, but it basically takes readers on guided hikes where we teach you how to read the forested landscape, what to look for. Yeah, and so we try to make it as accessible as possible. That there's so much out there that you can see when you walk through the woods if you know what to look for. Yeah. So past land history, fire scars, looking at soil, looking at the species composition or even the structure of the vegetation. It's like being a detective. That's what I'm looking forward to doing this summer in my forest communities class. So sort of a different version of that for undergraduate students in forestry.
Oh, that's cool. Oh man, to be a student in your classes, that would just be great. Oh, this is really cool.
I learn so much from my students too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, let's see. I don't know. That may wrap us up on time, but can I get you like booked at some point, or at least committed to be booked at some point down the future?
Sure, absolutely. Right. Even better if you're doing a hike or something.
That would be way better. And if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, I will certainly be giving you a heads up well in advance.
You do.
Yeah. I would love to see some of those ecosystems. And I'd love to see the pines too. Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pinus pungens, right?
Pinus pungens.
All right, I got a new tree locked in my brain now. Okay, well, Steph, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably through Twitter. My handle is Scissors Running.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, by the way, where was that coming from?
So I have a blog called Running with Scissors. That
Okay.
is a pretty good summation of my approach to life.
Okay.
I tend to act, and then sometimes, well, it's funny, NC State has the tagline that's think and do, and I struggle with that a little bit because I'm much more of a do and then think.
Yeah. I like that. That lends itself very well to discovery science, so I think that's great.
It does. Thanks. So
yeah, we'll always make things more rosy. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm Scissors Running on Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll make sure that I tag link everything like that in the description of your Twitter. Maybe like the link to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
We'd love to have more. It's funny that was an unexpected benefit. We have like 200 subscribers now.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I love it. It's awesome.
The videos are not professional quality. Like, we basically had to make 16 videos a week last fall, so that was a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
So when I talked to the libraries folks and asked for their video tips, they were telling me how I should script it so I wouldn't have to do so much editing. I was like, there's no time for a script or editing. This is so you have to keep that in mind. They're not like super professional, but we did.
But they are super informative and they're fun. I like them. So yeah.
Well, my TAs were really awesome last fall, and they helped me so much. So yeah, one of my TAs made a video of mistletoe by climbing up in the tree. So it's very authentic.
Okay, that's great. Okay, well, I'll make sure that I link all the relevant information that we've talked about, your book and so on.
Thanks. I'm also pretty easy to find at NC State. So
okay, all right, that's cool. Oh, this has been great, and I really look forward to hitting the trail with you. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Something to look forward to. Hey, we've both been vaccinated, so that's great.
That's right.
All right. Well, Steph, I guess I'll see you on the Twitter sphere and be in touch with you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Joe.
All right. Take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.